The title of the presentation is an analysis of residential land prices in Mauritius, land prices and fundamentals in Mauritius. So in this study, the main purpose of the study is to understand the evolution of residential land prices. And more specifically, to understand over time how land prices have been changing over time, and also why land prices have been changing over time, and also in different regions. So why in different regions we do not have the same land prices prevailing. So this study has been undertaken in the Mauritian context. So firstly, if we have a look at land prices, residential land prices in Mauritius over the past 40 years, we note that the land prices have not remained constant. The land prices have been fluctuating, and more particularly, land prices have been increasing over the past 40 years. And if we do an analysis of the land prices, residential land prices in terms of region, so here a breakdown in terms of region, more specifically in terms of urban region and rural region has been done. So we have two samples which were considered. And when we look at the land prices in the urban region, so they are given in blue in the graphic, we note that over the past 4 decades, consistently, land prices in urban regions, so given in blue in the graphic, and for rural region, the land prices are given in orange. So we note over the past 4 decades, consistently, land prices in urban regions have been superior to land prices in rural region. So the question in the study is to better understand why land prices, well, what are the factors which have been causing land prices to fluctuate, firstly, over time, and secondly, to understand why land prices in the two, in different regions, and here more specifically in the 2 regions, have been different over the past 4 decades. So if we have a look at the past researches done in the context of residential land prices, and more specifically in the studies where they tried to explain the fluctuations in the land prices. So we note that there are several categories of factors which are used to explain the fluctuations in land prices. And among these factors, there's one particular category of factor which has been identified as being important in explaining the fluctuation in land prices. So this is known as the fundamental factors. And well, within the fundamental factors, the main factors which are present are mainly macroeconomic factors and also demographic factors. So in this study, the main factors which have been identified, well, basing upon past researchers, so the main factors which have been identified as important in explaining land prices are population, income, interest rates, unemployment, construction costs, and residential building permits. So further, if we look at the theory, so one of the main theories which is used here when we are considering land pricing is the equilibrium pricing theory, according to which land prices in the market, so here residential land prices in the market, are normally established through factors which are affecting the demand of land and also factors which are affecting the supply of land. So once again, if we take the fundamental factors, we note that some of the fundamental factors are going to be classified as demand side factors. For example, one of the main factors that has been used in previous study is the population size. So normally in the previous studies, it has been found that as population size is increasing, so the demand of land is going to increase, and this is going to influence the prices of land. So likewise, income also, as the level of income is increasing, so individuals are going to increase their demand of land, and this is going to impact upon land prices. So in a similar way, the other factor mentioned, so which is affecting demand, is interest rate. So normally it is perceived that as banks reduce their level of interest rate, individuals are going to contract more loan, and contract more loan for the purchase of land. So this is also going to have an influence, well, as the demand of land, they take more loan and they demand more land. So this is going to impact on land prices. So there's also unemployment normally, which affects the demand of land. And on the supply side, so there are two main factors which have been identified as affecting land prices, and these are construction costs and residential building permits. So to undertake this particular study, so as I have said, we have considered the Mauritian context, and more specifically, residential land in the Mauritian context. So for the purpose of this study, data has been collected from year 2000 to year 2019. And in all, well, we have collected data from several regions, and more particularly from 7 urban regions, and data from 11 rural regions. So further to the data collection, so data has been collected for residential land prices, and also the data has been collected for the fundamental factors. And before actually performing the study and undertaking the regression, so a number of tests were undertaken. So firstly, unit root tests were undertaken on all the variables, and it was found that all the variables were stationary at level. So further to that, next a Hussmann test was conducted, and it was concluded that the most appropriate method to use for the regression was a fixed effect regression. So the regression technique adopted here is similar to that used by Karinen and Engblom in 2015. So they also undertook a similar study to understand in the residential land market, so what are the factors affecting land prices. So we have adopted a model a bit similar to what they have used also. So in the regression equation that you have here, so on the left side, you have the dependent variable. So the dependent variable being used here is land price. So we are having on the right side the independent variables which are affecting land prices. So as I have mentioned, so here we have the fundamental factors affecting the demand of land and the supply of land included as the independent variables. So from there we have income included as one independent variable. Then we have population size. Then we have real interest rates. We have unemployment. Next, we have residential building permits and construction costs. So the following regression was performed, and the following results were obtained. So firstly, to understand, to have a broad idea of how fundamental factors are affecting residential land prices in Mauritius. So the whole sample was considered. So by the whole sample, I mean all the regions were used, namely the 7 urban regions and the 11 rural regions were considered as a whole. And when we look at the results, we note that most of the fundamental factors were significant in explaining land prices in Mauritius. So we note that, for example, as the population size is increasing, for example, by 1%, when population size is increasing by 1%, so this is causing an increase of 0.17% on land prices in Mauritius. Likewise, when income is increasing, so this is having a significant positive effect on land prices in Mauritius. So next, we have, as a result, data of real interest rates. So here we depict a negative relationship between land price and interest rate. So as previously mentioned, when interest rate is going to decrease, this will induce individuals to contract more loan. So the demand of land is going to increase, and therefore this should be causing an increase in land prices. So there should normally be an inverse relationship between interest rate and land price. And the next factor which has a significant influence on land price is unemployment. Well, here the result is positive, so we have a positive coefficient for unemployment. But normally, as per theory, we should have obtained a negative one here. Normally, as the level of unemployment is increasing, so individuals, we have more individuals who are unemployed, and the demand of land should have decreased, and this should have caused a decrease in land price. But here we have obtained a positive relationship. So further to this, so after having verified that the fundamental factors are significant, most of the fundamental factors are significant in explaining land prices in Mauritius, so explaining the fluctuations of land prices over time. So further to that, the second objective of the study was to understand if there are factors which are causing the land prices to be different in terms of region. So secondly, we have broken down the sample into two, so containing one sample of region, which is urban region, and one sample consisting of rural region. So once again, we have kept the same fundamental factors. So the fundamental factors are kept same. And now we are seeing how they are influencing land prices in the two regions. So when performing the regression, so we apply the fixed effect model. Once again, we perform the regression and the results are given here. So one interesting result that is obtained is that we note that population in the whole sample, from the results for the whole sample, we had seen that population is significant in explaining land prices. And here, when we break down the sample into two, urban and rural, now we note that population is significant in explaining land prices only in urban regions, whereas in rural regions, we note that it is insignificant in explaining land prices. That is, population does not affect land prices in rural regions. So, well, one of the main explanations that can be given for this is that in Mauritius, we note that, well, the population size, the whole population is around 1.26 million individuals. And from the available statistics, around 500,000 individuals normally stay in urban region. So in urban regions, so we have urban regions which are quite densely populated. So there we have population which plays an important role in affecting and in explaining land prices, in contrast to rural regions which are less densely populated, and therefore population is not having such a significant influence on land prices in rural regions. So from there, the other factors included in the model, so income is significant in explaining land prices both in urban and rural regions. Once again, we find that the interest rate level is significant and negative in explaining land prices. And once again, we have unemployment, which has a positive significant effect on land prices in both regions. So to conclude, so we have seen in this particular study that, well, the fundamentals do explain the fluctuations in land prices, and they do explain the fact that land prices tend to change over time. And secondly, we have also seen a very interesting result in the sense that when we have considered the regional differences in land prices, we have seen that in urban region, one of the main factors that is influencing land price is the population size. And in general, so such results should be very important for policy decision making and all, mainly when we take into consideration the fact that land, and more specifically residential land, remains one of the main wealth components for most individuals. So when residential land price is fluctuating, this is having an effect on the wealth of most individuals. And we need to know how to explain the evolution. We need to understand the factors which affect land prices if we want to understand how the wealth of individuals are fluctuating. Okay, so thank you very much for listening to the presentation.